Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
And we are live, so welcome to A Coffee with Karen. A cup of positivity with just a sprinkling of woo-woo, but I would say if you've noticed previous weeks I think we're going more into a couple of teaspoons, maybe getting into the tablespoons of woo-woo as we go. So each week all my guests tend to be on the same page, somehow involved in holistic health, and either from a mental, a physical or a spiritual perspective, or in general, everybody seems to be a bit of a combination of all three. And of course, I'm your host, Karen Roberts. I suppose I would describe myself as a holistic transformation coach. Really, it's all about helping people get back on track, finding their mojo. Whether that's nutrition, exercise, bit of mindset and energy healing, bit of a mixture. So I'm so excited, actually. This is going to be quite an interesting conversation today with Kahreela. And so, Kahreela, I'm just going to allow you to share with the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and share a little bit of your story to start with.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for having me on this show. It's really cool to be here. I am a channel, so I work with spirit guides, and I have a company called Starlight Temple that really offers ceremonies and courses and spiritual travel that is about using channeled tools and information to become more empowered and live more of your truth and more of a life that brings you fulfillment and happiness. And so that's what I do. So there's quite a lot of woo-woo.
There is. I love it. I love it. I love it. So for you then, when did you first realise that you could channel? I mean, I'm sure we all could. We just don't yet know how to. So how did you come across, how did you even find out that you were able to do this?
So you're absolutely right. Everybody can channel. I actually believe it's a birthright that every single human being has. And one of the things I do is I teach people to channel because it's really something that betters people's lives. I believe that we are meant to be in divine conversation with life, and channeling, it is just part of that divine conversation. It's part of how we as humans connect to life and nature and the universe and our souls and our higher selves, and actually everybody can channel and does channel. That's the thing, is when you're teaching people to channel, you're kind of you actually already know how to do this, because as being human means you cannot not know how to do this. We all have instinct and intuition and aspects of the divine conversation that are always running. In terms of channeling spirit guides, I was like everybody that I teach, kind of thinking that I didn't know how to do it, even though I was already healing and already using my intuition and already passing messages on as a healer. And then what happened is I started to meet channels, and I started to meet different channels, including a channel called Solara. And at the time that Solara was teaching, she wasn't teaching channeling, and I was begging her to teach because I really wanted to learn how to do it. And instead she recommended a book called Opening to Channel, and I ordered the book, and before the book arrived I was able to do it. It was all I needed to do was give permission and then suddenly it happened. And very much that's what most people need to do, is they need to give permission, and then it begins.
So basically I suppose that's a form of just allowing it in. You've just made a decision. You've just come into alignment with everything. And what's the common saying? When you're ready, the teacher will appear, you know?
Yeah. So, and I feel like very much the universe is always waiting for us to go, I give my permission, I give my free will,
I'm ready now.
Yeah. I guys have a session.
Although, do you not think that some people then can actually block that because they're almost trying too hard, can force it?
Yeah, when I teach people to channel, one of the things that we have to work a lot on is not trying too hard, because it is so easy. You know, the last time, we only teach it once a year, because the way I teach it is through a kind of big immersive process, and I'm only prepared to do that once a year. And the last time it was on was at the end of 21, and there's one workshop that is taught basically by the fairy kingdom, and the fairies in this particular year's channeling course were just hilarious. And they were like, you already know how to channel, you do it in your dreams, you've just paid for a course that you know how to do in your sleep. But that's nearly, their workshop is nearly always the breakthrough workshop for people, because they remind everyone to just relax and have fun, and
there you go,
to do it even in the sleep, like they were saying, and
relax and have fun. Do you think the reason why we have almost been conditioned to block all this off is because we've been conditioned and brought up to take everything so seriously and think about things? So you're just being in that mental ego space of thought, which is not turning it off. It just means that we don't hear it as loudly, because we're focusing everything up here in our heads, and what we've been taught to be is right and real, and we've just, I don't know, sort of untied ourselves to it.
Yeah, definitely. The head is, the head's amazing, and I don't think we should get rid of that sense.
It has its place.
It has its place, but because it's, really the mind is there to judge, and judgment is very useful. Crossing the road is always the example I give. Judgment, very important when crossing the road. Not so good when you're trying to connect to what cannot be seen, to what cannot be kind of quantified in the way, and very often, it is the way that we're educated. One of the things that the channeling course does is really often people meet that kind of thing of like how we're taught to get something right and not be in play, and that takes us out of our heart. And channeling is really the conversation of the heart. It's the conversation that isn't about judging something as being right or wrong in the right moment. It's about being in the flow. And so I think it's education, but also, I've been lucky enough to work quite a lot in Japan, and I taught channeling in Japan. I still teach online in Japan, but before the pandemic, I was teaching in person in Japan. And the first time I went out there to teach channeling, I was like amazed, because like these people just opened up instantly. Like they came to the class and they just opened up instantly. And I asked my guides, I was like, are Japanese people just really good at channeling? Like, why is it so much harder to teach English people? And they said that they were like, no, the Japanese never got burnt at the stake. They never burnt their witches. And so their paganism is still, Shintoism is still very much a part of Japanese culture. The idea of connecting to nature and the essence of nature, and basically what they said is that the reason English people find it harder to connect is mainly because of our history of persecuting witches and connection and those kind of practices, and it's very in our our shadow. It's very in our deep subconscious.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because it would have gone on for an incredibly long time when you do look at history. Oh my goodness, I was so burnt at a stake in a previous life. I'm pretty convinced if I did I'm sure I know many that I'm sure I would have been. I'm sure I would have been in that era. And it's fascinating how long we have come from, using just being at one with nature and knowing that there, at the end of the day, I mean, I suppose the easiest comparison would be stinging nettles, dockleaf. I mean, it's just so obvious that it's there in front of us. Nature has its way of whatever the poison is, there'll be something next to it that can cure. And people know this, right? But they still, what I can't understand to where we've got to today is the realization that how are we even here if we cannot trust our own innate body, the willingness, the ability to heal itself, and then using natural things to heal ourselves. Surely people have got to think, then how is their line, that ancestral line, still here? Because how did their how did they survive anything hundreds, thousands of years ago without needing?
It's what I always say to people. I'm like, people call it new age. I'm like, it's old age. Like, this stuff is
original.
And actually, I think that like modern medicine is amazing. You know, like there are some surgery, what they can do with broken bones, like the science is phenomenal. What I have a slight frustration with is that as a collective society, we still think that it's one way for everyone. And the beautiful thing about the divine conversation is it starts you to help you find your way. And so, for the way I always treat anything with my body, with my health, is I use the divine conversation. I ask for the medicine, I ask for the practitioner, I follow the signs, I follow the guidance, and it always leads me to the right medicine. And I think that sometimes, and that might, I don't want to say for definite, because you have to be quite careful when you're talking about physical health, but like just in my personal experience, everything I have ever been guided towards has been the right medicine for me. Sometimes I've resisted it because I've been going, that's ridiculous, I'm ignoring that. And then it's been right, and I'm like, why didn't I listen sooner?
Right, so there you go. It's listening, learning to listen.
And learning to ask. We've decided that we have to ask another human being as opposed to asking Mother Nature or the cosmos. And there's so many medicines out there, and sometimes I am guided towards modern medicine. So it's not that, my guides are like, all medicine is medicine. Sometimes I am guided towards antibiotics being the best medicine.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm guided towards, I think the one thing that was truly amazing for me is when I had coronavirus, I was guided towards happy. And I never, on a personality self level, would have ever thought that happy was the thing that I was going to work with. Happy is shamanic snuff. It's shamanic.
Ah, okay.
And I was like, so I had it, and I had to fly. At that, like, I had enough time to quarantine, but only just enough. And I was like, I have to get this out of my system really quickly, because if I don't get it out of my system, and I test, I'm not going to be able to fly for work, because I was doing this thing in America. So I was really keen to get rid of it, and as quickly as possible. And my whole instinct was just like, you need happy. And I was like, really? I often say that to my guides. I'm like, really? But I tried it, and what was amazing is that, like, within 4 days I was testing negative. And then
Wow.
since then, I haven't been kind of publicly talking about it that much, but since then I've been, anybody I know that's been struggling to shake it, I've been like, you know what really helped me was happy. And so I've been recommending it to them, and they're like, yeah, it's amazing, it works. And so, you know, there was one person I know that has a really bad lung condition, and she got it. And so I posted her some happy, and she was like, I couldn't breathe. And I took the happy and I could instantly breathe. And so,
Wow.
and now they've actually started a scientific study into tobacco and coronavirus, because they're starting to notice that smokers are not getting it as heavily. And so there is actually something in that happy. But like stuff like that happens all the, you know, I'm not saying it will work for everyone, because that's my point, is that not all medicine works for everyone.
And it's we're all individuals, and it is that whole holistic look at the whole, and somebody's experience is going to be different, and it's just far too complex. And I do think I read something only the other day, and I thought, oh, are they starting to come out of this one pill is going to fix anybody for that thing? Come on, we're all different blood group types, we're all different. There's so many differences between us. How can anything ever be the same cure for one particular ailment? It's crazy.
And what I feel the divine conversation is a birthright for is to help you find your way. Like to help you find your medicine, to help you find your alignments, to help you find your way. And it also just makes life more exciting, because you never get bored. Like you're just like life I never get bored. I'm always like, oh my God, it's so magical, they're right. Like I'm always like, they're right.
Well, it does make sense, because I suppose the way, and I'm the same, and I think some people misunderstand me. I'm not anti-Western medicine. You know, I have asthma. I do. Well, if I need it, I will take the blue inhaler. I will try other things. And you know, when I need it, I need it. That's the end of it. In an emergency, acute stage, if there's no time to actually go through a healing process, yes, I'm sure a lot of things are going to work. But hopefully, the message would be to people is to be more intuitive, so they hear the thing further back before things have got to the stage where they desperately need this now, so they can be on a healing process before anything's got too bad. Would that be right?
Absolutely. And I would, you know, one of the big pillars of my path is something called shadow work, which is about working with the deep subconscious, which is about really taking responsibility for why something is manifesting, including looking at the deep subconscious reasons why something could be manifesting in the body. And like you say, in an emergency, there is not time to do that. But especially with anything that is long term, and even with short term things, I have known some of the tools for, again, this is only me personally, but like I have known some of the shadow work tools to clear things like food poisoning, which I didn't think was possible, you know? So I've had those magical moments of like, wow, working with your subconscious can happen quickly if you know how. And I would, because that's kind of one of my main fields, and I think everybody in their main field would say they definitely recommend. But like for me, I would be like, I would never ever look at something on just a physical level and not work with it on a subconscious level, because for me the subconscious work is like the soil work. It's like pulling things up at the root. So even if you can get rid of something on a surface level, chances are it's going to grow back up again if you don't get it at its roots. And so, and for me, nearly everything that's manifesting from that point of view is in the roots. You know, it has roots somewhere. And
so for people listening, because we hear this a lot, shadow work.
Scary.
Coming up more and more and more. So for a lot of people, they might be listening thinking, what's shadow work? So can you give a description?
Yeah, it's got a kind of a name that puts people off. It's not so good to market.
Well, because it sounds worse than it's a healing. It's we're all going to have stuff that we're going to need healing here.
Shadow means working with, my guides say that shadow is working with what you cannot see. And so how I work with it and how I teach it is I'm like, you're working with the deep subconscious. So you have your consciousness, which is everything you can see. It's everything you know about yourself, the good and the bad. It's everything that you know. And then you also have your deep subconscious, which is, I describe it as like the attic, you know, where everything just gets in.
Have it in there, close the door.
And especially when we're, you know, in Japan, they're actually doing research into the junk DNA, which modern science says has no purpose. But in Japan, they're trying to prove that that's where the subconscious is. In our junk DNA. And so, you know, science is trying to meet the metaphysical, so to speak. And for me personally, shadow work has been completely life-changing because I've done spirituality for a very long time. And there are many amazing tools out there that have been really helpful to my life. But one of the things that I was getting frustrated with was this like idea you have to be positive all the time. And I was like, I'm not. I'm not. I'm getting frustrated, and then I'm scared that I'm not I felt like out of control with my manifestation, basically. And from a shadow work perspective, what it is about is like when you manifest something that you want, everything that's in the way of that thing is also going to come up, not to stop it from happening, but so you can clear it, so that you can change it. And so like one of the examples I like to give is for example, when, you know, nearly everybody wants abundance because abundance is a very good thing. It means we can thrive and look after our family and look after and nurture our paths. And, you know, our consciousness tends to want and manifest abundance. But our subconscious is filled with all sorts of things that are maybe in conflict with that intention. And these things, they can come from childhood. They can come from ancestrally being passed on. They can come from past lives. They can come from all sorts of places. But for example, a lot of people have things in their subconscious like money is the root of all evil. And their consciousness does not believe that. But at some point, that conditioning got into their system. And so there's part of their energy that's trying to manifest abundance, and there's another part of their energy that like genuinely believes it's evil and is trying everything it can to get
out.
Yeah. And that's when you end up blocked, when you've got two parts of you in conflict. And so what shadow work does is it goes into the subconscious to find that belief and get it out of the system, so that that belief isn't creating a conflict with what your consciousness is trying to manifest. And for me, it's like there has been nothing in my life that I haven't been able to journey into my subconscious with and assist through that way. And then it's really amazing, because what I found so amazing about shadow work is when you really hit the core, when you really get to the core, things actually change. Like you turn around and you're like, and it doesn't happen overnight, because change happens at the pace of the earth. We have our habitual consciousness, we have all of these things. But when you know, the time that I do shadow work is eclipse windows mainly, because their shadow, like map of the skies. And what I find is that, like, every time I've done shadow work, by the next eclipse window, it has shown up what I was trying to re-manifest through shadow work has shown up in the map of my life without fail.
Wow.
I've had relationships change. I've had so many things. Like the last one, you know, I was working on the loneliness wound, and literally by the next eclipse window, I was like, oh my gosh, I have all of these friends and all of this tribe and all of these people around me. And it's like completely transformed. And that's the power of working with the soils. You know, that's the power of like what you plant and what you uproot. It will grow, like it will happen. And I like stuff that is woo-woo, but is also applicable to life.
But I think, I mean, we joke about this, and you're so right that that, you know, what is it is what is. It's like talking about organic fruit. There's nothing like special about that. Was the natural way, you know. What you've done has changed things. Actually, woo woo is the original, and then we've come in and put all these new constraints on things of all the topics of learning stuff, but the woo-woo was all the way along. It's not the new. It is what it is.
And it's not, you know, or even modern medicine, even pharmaceuticals, they go to the plants. You know, they go to, there's a garden in London called the Chelsea Physic Garden, and the pharmaceutical companies are always going there to find out about plants, and so that they can try and recreate the plants in the labs. Like everything comes from the soil. Everything. You know?
It's like if we really needed this new science, these human beings wouldn't be on the planet, because that's what I can't get my head around people understanding is you wouldn't have survived. Your lineage would not have survived if you really had to have. You wouldn't have. Do you know what I mean? With this stuff, your ancestors survived. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I just think about it.
And they survived with the you know, they
with
survived.
We wouldn't survive.
I mean, my guides like to say that you know, our DNA, we are the living proof of the resilience of humanity. It's like if ever you feel like you can't do something, just know that you are the living proof of what humanity can do, because
100%.
He just like is so resilient, and it has so much information in it, and I feel like I said, science is getting there with the understanding that the shadow and the DNA are connected. It's not quite there yet, but what I believe is that it is, and the other reason to do shadow work is not just to create change, but it's to also access that wisdom. It's to, you know, our shadow is everything outside of our consciousness and our limitations, and so in our shadow is also the gifts and the wisdom and the knowledge that our consciousness has forgotten. It's like going there, we can access so much of what we need from that DNA story of humanity.
Wow, love that. And it's all going back to people understanding that if they were to just trust themselves, their inner, have a little bit more faith in the power that they already have, that everybody has. Nobody has more of it than they do. There's no like, well, you're better than me, so you've got more of it. No, we've all got the same. It's a matter of having faith in it, I suppose. And I'm not talking about the belief. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what faith is the belief in the unknown, or the things you can't actually see. It's all the same, isn't it? We're all talking about the same thing. But actually, it's within every single one of us.
It was interesting because last year, one of the most profound things that my guides did was a course on the night of the Venus gates, which is when the moon and Venus are next to each other. They were like, we're going to teach about sacral manifesting. And they were like, we're not going to tell you what it's about. We're just going to do it. And each Venus gate is connected to a chakra. And we're going to teach you. And like whoever's called will just come, and we'll announce the theme for the next one in the next month. So it was very like in the mystery and in the magic. And what they did, I've never known them to do anything like this. They literally like did channeling for 3 hours on those Venus Gate nights, and everybody would come out like really stoned, being like, I don't know what happened. And then what would happen is like what they taught about you'd literally live it over the month. And it was amazing. It was like a flowering tea. It was like the consciousness that they'd put into you would flower over the month. And the Venus Gate for the heart chakra, they taught about faith. And what they said about faith is, they were like, faith is being alive with your own divinity. That is what faith actually is it's when you become alive with your own divinity. And they were like, believing is being alive with. You're not truly believing something until you're alive with it. And funnily enough, Faith Month was that month that I had coronavirus and had to get to. And so I was like living the faith. I was like, I am alive with my own divinity. And it's all going to be fine. And it's going to happen.
And you did it. There you go. And you got there.
Yeah. And in a way, I was like, there is no, you can't have faith in something until you experience it. And for me, that's what ceremony and kind of everything I do is about like giving people an opportunity to have an experience, because there's no point in me telling you, because you're not going to believe it. Like, you don't become alive with something until you've experienced.
Right. Yes. And that is that even goes back to even on the conversations I was just having, actually this morning, just the fact that, so for instance, with everything that everybody is teaching, it is about the experience, because, we know that for anybody to just even if for 5 minutes they focused just say on their breath to quieten them up, we know with beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are going to feel better than when they came in. But yes, because they just maybe hear, we should meditate, and they're not taking it on board because they haven't done it. And that is the key, isn't it? It's that you can hear about this, and a lot of people, they hear a lot of this stuff that they've been told would be good for them. But again, it's that gap between knowing and doing. Just because you could have heard it a million times over and still not done anything about it. And until you actually do it, so the experience of it, it's just absolutely massive. But do you think that there's again, because there is like, I see it as there does seem to be a bit of a divide, which I suppose this is what I'm trying to do, is drip feed the more woo-woo stuff in, because there seems to be a divide of the people over one here that dismiss before they've experienced anything, before they've even done mindfulness or yoga or anything along this thing. So they instantly dismiss it. And then you've got people over here that because they've experienced it, they know. When you know something to be true, you just know. That's the faith, I suppose. But there is a divide, and it just seems such a shame.
It is a shame. And I think that, it's a shame because ultimately this, not everything is for everyone, and not everything is for everyone right now. Like, there have been Kundalini, for example, for years I was like, I don't get it. And then last summer I was like, oh, I get it. So, we always get our things at the right time. And I think the problem is that wonderful kind of human ego of identity. It's like, I am not this person. And in a way, it's like, you don't have to be a person, like a type of person, to benefit from breathing. Like, again, the fairies in that workshop, they were like, yeah, only humans would do courses on how to breathe. Why are you doing courses? Like, but
I
they
mean, it's crazy.
It's like, I think that people think that they will lose, you know, I think a lot of people I think a few things happen with the divide. I think some of it is the deep subconscious, you know, people, especially people with Western DNA, they they have a lot of subconscious memory of like being burnt as a witch, persecution. So a lot of that fear is coming up in the like shutdown to it from the deep subconscious. There's also this identity at the moment of like, I'm into science or I'm into spirituality. Whereas I feel like they're the same thing, because they're both trying to explain the world. They're both ways of explaining the world, and they're both not fixed. You know, both science and spirituality are about truths forever disproving themselves. And so to me, science is just part of spirituality. But there's this like identity of like, either you're into science
or not, or my way's right and your way's wrong, and actually you're all right.
And everybody's right. You know, my guides say that like all truths, that truth is kind of made up of all of the truths in the universe. It's like, you know, those tiny little pictures that make up one big picture. It's like made up of all those tiny little truths. And so everybody is right. And especially in these times where like we're living through this kind of crazy, amazing human experience of crossing of ages in a way, that means that truth is at this time is very unfixed, and therefore everybody's truth is also very able to be very fixed. It's like there's the polarity. But I feel like,
I mean, is it? I mean, hasn't it always been that bit? You know, when we hear about the scientists, when they say that it's the observer effect, you know, did they see particles or did they see waves? And it is they've almost proven it in their way of science that it isn't fixed, because actually when they get down to it, one person sees particles and the other person sees waves. So
yeah, it's not fixed. And I think, but I feel like what humanity is going through collectively in Pisces, you know, we're changing from Pisces to Aquarius, and that is an astrological thing that is actually happening. It's to do with an alignment of the sun. And for me, the sun kind of represents truth. And so we're in this kind of changeover of values, basically. Yeah. And in Pisces, you know, Piscean truth really was from knowledge and from kind of books and education and that left brain way of understanding truth, and in quite a masculine way. We've been in quite a masculine way of doing things, a patriarchal way, and we're moving into a feminine way, which is much more chaotic and much more about feeling and fluidity, and you know, we're also, up until recently, our DNA did have clear pathways of truth, because, you know, until we had the internet, you kind of just went with what was on TV and what was in the newspapers. And now suddenly our consciousness is presented with all of these different types
of everything.
And it's quite a different human experience from the human experience of our grandparents.
Yes.
You know, it's quite a different human experience to suddenly to have all of these options of truth that weren't not there. Like they weren't, there was only certain pathways of truth. And now there's so many. And I think people are really, in a way, seeking safety, actually. It's like we're seeking humans are always seeking safety, but we're seeking safety in truth, and that's why we're trying to fix truth. And when we recognize that we cannot get that truth is something that changes and it can't keep us safe, we will seek safety in other ways, and there won't be such a clash of truth, I believe.
Yeah, it is fascinating. It's fascinating to watch this whole thing open up, and there does seem to be, well, is there more of it, or is it because I'm seeing it, because I'm going down that route? You know, there is that side of it as well. I suppose what comes to you, you were sort of seeking anyway. That makes sense. So yeah, maybe I'm seeing more of it, others may not.
Yeah, and you know, now we've got, like, that's kind of true on a synchronicity level, universal level. We also now have like algorithms.
Yes.
Kind of adding to the synchronicity level in a way.
I mean it does, doesn't it? Actually, even my own daughter taught me this, because she did say, I don't know, not that I'm on TikTok, I don't get the other things, a lot of them, but she could tell the difference between what her father was seeing or what was coming up versus what was coming up for her. And it is like, it's almost like whatever your belief is, they will try and show you more of the same.
They'll nurture it and they'll feed it, and that human experience has not been there before, not in this way. It's a strange experience for our consciousness and our DNA, and I really feel like the key, because it's very hard to know now what the truth, you know, like it's very easy to go down rabbit holes about what is the right thing to do, what the truth is. And for me, this is why connecting to yourself and your instinct and your intuition and your divine conversation is like more important than ever, because there is so much information and so much, like you say, one person's getting a different story from another person. And so in a way, it's like we're being forced to recenter ourselves. We're being forced to take our truth from being what somebody else has said and forced to find what is true for us. And that comes from all of the things we're talking about, like meditation and breath work and listening and coaching, you know, like all of these things, they are tools to help you find your truth. They are not tools to tell you the truth. They are tools to help you find your truth. And once you find your truth, life gets a bit easier, because then you kind of know your way, you know what to do, you know how to make it.
And you will feel safe. You'll feel safer. Like you say, we're all looking for, we all have these basic human, some more than others. Some people's safety might not be the most important thing, and to others it really is. Find it quite fascinating, this whole thing, which again goes back to this whole, why we ever thought one thing would be the solution forever, because we're all so different with our wants, our desires, what is important to us, what we need the most, what we put our attention on. We are such complex beings. But yes, I suppose everybody is saying the same thing: go inwards.
Go inwards, and you know, I think on a surface level, all people have different levels of safety or what safety means. But I think there is this primordial thing of wanting to be safe that comes up in times of change, in times of crisis, and makes human beings really prepared to be strong-willed around what they believe makes them feel safe. That makes sense.
Yeah. But it is all that, isn't it? It is only coming from our perception, how we see it, and and that's what's been quite interesting over the last 2 years, because we I think we always had this feeling that everything is safe and we are in control. And we know that we never were in control.
Yeah.
But it was the perception before. And what's happened in the last 2 years, that perception has broken down because people have realised that we didn't ever have control in the first place.
One of the most significant messages I ever had was that it was from Lakshmi, who is a deity or a goddess of abundance. And she said the problem with humanity is that you think that money can make you safe. Money can't make you safe. Money's a growth energy. Anything that can make you grow can't make you safe by the nature of it. But what humanity is trying to do is they're trying to replace what can keep you safe. They're trying to use money as the replacement for what can keep you safe. The only thing that can keep you safe is community. The only thing that will actually look after you when you're sick, when you're ill, through thick and thin, is community. And really, for humanity to get back into balance, all it needs to do is remember that community is what will make you feel safe, nothing else. Community is what will keep you safe through anything, through any storm. And I kind of feel like, in a way, the last 2 years have been that upheaval of everything we thought that was going to keep us safe. You know, everybody that was like secure in their jobs, in their, you know, and also because there was quite a lot of separation, it made it even worse because suddenly the community things that we did have weren't there. And so people have felt very unsafe in the last 2 years. And I think, I think that one of the ways that we can help each other, and especially when we're having conversations that are maybe about bridging difficult subjects and things like that, is to remember that everybody wants to feel safe, and it's the community and the connection, not the separation, that will mean we're safe. You know, it's the thing that will keep us safe in the end is each other.
Absolutely. And I hope, I do, although I think I've been saying the same thing for the last 2 years. It'll be over soon. But I do feel like we have turned a corner and things are settling, and the new, we've got a long way to go, but I don't think we're going to go backwards into that.
I don't think we can go back. I don't even know if we want to go back. You know, like I feel like there was a lot of like, we just want everything to go back to normal, and it's like, but do we, or do we want to be better? Do you know what I mean? Like, everything got churned up. Can we create something better than what we had before?
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I feel like astrologically there is a turning of the tides.
Something's happened. There is change.
There's a change. And I feel like the next 10, not in just terms of the pandemic, but the next 10 years are really significant, because what humanity chooses in the next 10 years is going to affect so many generations. And this is really a time of laying the foundation of what's next for humanity. And I hope that we choose a foundation that is based in community and love and magic, because I like the woo woo, but you know,
I think there's more to come. I think so. I think that you can almost, well, you can feel it, but you can almost touch it. There is definitely a change. Something has definitely changed, and you can see what's going on, all over the world at the moment. I even had a conversation with my own mother, who didn't even know what was going on in Canada. So
my parents didn't know.
They don't know. They don't know. So because I joked, I went, who knew that it was going to be the truckers?
I'm like, it started with toilet roll and it's ending with truckers. It's
amazing. Who knew? Who knew that they would be the saviours? Like, who knew? Who knew that the guy that was transporting your toilet roll?
It's just so wonderful. I know.
It is. It's perfect. It's actually perfect. It absolutely perfect. There you go. The guy that's driving the HGV lorry that was trying to get to your toilet roll to you because you've taken all the packets off the shelves. He's the one that's going to save the day. It's quite.
It's so.
Nice. As an outsider, look, it's actually quite comical, isn't it? Really.
And I feel like we're on this. My guys were channeling about it the other day, actually. They were talking about how humanity is really at a point of exploring what freedom is. Like maybe never before. We've always been quite obsessed with freedom as a like our human journey has been an exploration of freedom. But now we are really meeting with what freedom means.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, there is no root word. I'm obsessed with root words. And there is no root word. There is no meaning for freedom. The only meaning is unslaved. So like there isn't actually, it's so our essence that there isn't actually a word to describe it. We can only describe what it is not, which is unchained or unslaved, because it is so innate in us to be free.
To be right.
And what they said recently is they were like, true freedom doesn't happen when somebody unlocks a cage for you. Then you're just in debt to them. True freedom only happens when you set yourself free. And I believe that what humanity is going through in the next 10 years is a journey of setting ourselves free from that which has kept us chained. From that, and whether that chaining is conscious, I'm not going to go into all of that, but it's like, we have been chained and enslaved to systems that stop us living our fulfillment and our happiness and our greatest potential. And we will not be free if the powers of the world just go, sorry, here you go. Like, we won't be free if we're set free. You're only free if you set yourself free. And that's what I feel is starting to happen this year, is humanity is starting to go, wait a minute, nobody's going to come and save me. I've got to set myself free from things that I don't want, from things that do not resonate with me, from things that are not true for me.
There you go. Love that. So it is, again, going back full circle, just said it there about what resonates with you. Because, freedom for one person could look very different to freedom for another person. So again, it's going back to that, what is it that you want? Asking yourself the questions. Going inwards again, because what is right for one person, again, is not going to be right for the next person. We all want this freedom, but what does freedom look like to you? Interesting. It's such a fascinating. I could be here all day.
It's fascinating. What does freedom mean?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I've always been a bit of a free spirit and travelled and I haven't stopped yet. There's still so much that I want to see, and obviously that has put a bit of a spanner in the works.
But you know what? I check, because I'm the same, and I've travelled loads with work and personally, and in March 2020 I asked my guys, I was like, is travel over? And they were like no, but the McDonald's of travel is over. So that time of not thinking about the impact, not just booking it without even thinking, they were like, that's done. But if you travel in service, you will always be given a passage. If you travel in service to the humanity and Mother Earth, you are always being given a passage. And so far they have been right, because, you know, I have done quite a lot of traveling in the last 2 years. And it's just, yeah, there's always been a passage when I thought there wasn't going to be. And so
there you go. It's just going to change. And yeah, like you say, I suppose it's almost like an instant reaction to say, oh, we want to go back. But you're right. No, we don't want to go back to how things were. We are in a transition. We've gone through a massive transitional period, and we've still got a long way to go through this transition. So for you, let's get back to what you have to offer the listeners. You've touched on a few things. Okay, obviously you do shadow work, so that's helping people not just heal past things, but also just to, I suppose, reconnect them. What other services do you offer the people who are listening in? Why would they want to come to see Kahreela?
So generally I prefer to work in groups. So we tend to do online. We do a lot online. We do online ceremonies and online courses. This year, you know, a lot of my work was about doing shadow work and healing, and that will continue. But we're also, my guides have suddenly started being like, it's all about manifestation this year. So like, you know, because what they say is this year has so much chaos energy in it, that chaos energy is primal creative energy. It's like, this is the year to manifest that better. This is the year to manifest out of all of this change. And so we're also doing quite a lot of courses on manifestation, and not manifestation that is a lot of the manifestation that we've already learned about is third eye based manifestation, whereas my guides are teaching a lot about sexual energy manifestation and creation and womb manifestation and things like that. We also have courses that are, everything that Starlight does really is about helping people that are way showers, that are teachers, that are space holders, that are healers. That tends to be the kind of people that come to us. And so we have other courses that are about things like making sure that your home energy is high vibrational, obviously channeling course, all sorts of things we have. We're quite, I'm a bit like, my spirituality is like that too, but I'm like, I call it pick and mix, because I'm like, I don't want to do one thing, I want to switch off and I want to do it all.
Want to do everything.
Yeah, well, we do things in the divine conversation. So when something is called, it gets done. So our house clearing course, for example, happens when it gets called. Business coaches find me a nightmare because they're like, you need to make a plan, and I'm like, yeah, no, I need a sign.
And there you go. But planning is all up here, isn't it? It's in that, and then just going with, you're just so in alignment, you're just doing what you do when it's the right time. Love that.
But we offer quite a lot. It's worth joining the mailing list, because we do a lot of free webinars, lots and lots of free things.
So how do people get in touch? So those, so wherever you're listening to this or watching this, it could be in very different places. So if you're on the website or on YouTube, you'll be connected to Kahreela. But I'm just aware of people who are just listening in. How would they get onto your mailing list?
Starlight-temple.com.
Starlight-temple.com.
Yeah, starlight-temple.com. And if you join our mailing list, you will find out about the pick and mix
when they come.
On the menu at the moment.
When it's decided that it's the right time to do it. Yeah, who knows? Oh, I love that. It's just what a lovely way to be. What a lovely way to be. you know, I think the other side of things really comes from the fear place of what will happen if I don't, rather than, again, learning to trust that all will come in its rightful time and place. And it's all going back to that faith. Love that. I honestly, I love this conversation. So I love them all. Thank you so much for your time. We could go on. I'm sure we'll have to get you back for something else.
I'd love to come back.
Talk to you. And,
it's amazing.
So I thought I will definitely get on that mailing list as well. And to the rest of the listeners, thank you for listening in. I will be back next week with a coffee with Karen. Bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.